Building legacy without permission, the courage to begin. Have you ever stood at the edge of something magnificent, a dream so vivid you could almost touch it, but found yourself paralyzed, waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and say, "You're ready now"? That permission slip, it's never coming. I recently had the profound opportunity to interview Lanell Carter, whose insights have completely transformed how I understand legacy building in our communities. Lanell isn't just a visionary, he's a revolutionary thinker who has dedicated his life to empowering others to recognize their inherent authority to create change. His work has sparked movements across communities where people have stopped waiting and started building legacies that will echo for generations. What struck me most about our conversation wasn't just his wisdom, but the urgency with which he spoke about the need for us to stop waiting and start building, especially when it comes to creating lasting impact for those who come after us. The world doesn't hand out permission slips for greatness, Linnell shared during our talk. The most powerful legacies begin with someone who simply decided their vision couldn't wait for perfect conditions. This resonated deeply with me, particularly as I consider the journey so many high achieving Black women find themselves on, exhausted from years in survival mode, leading teams, raising families, holding down households, carrying communities, and rarely giving themselves permission to build something meaningful on their own terms. But what if, and here's the uncomfortable truth, what if the very thing holding us back isn't external validation, but our own hesitation to begin? Think about it. When was the last time you put your own vision on hold because you were waiting to feel qualified enough? When did you last dismiss your own ideas because you thought someone else should build them instead? How many times have you said, "I'll start when," followed by some condition that keeps moving just beyond your reach? I see you nodding. I feel that truth landing. Let me tell you about Kimberly Bryant. In 2011, she wasn't waiting for Silicon Valley's blessing when she founded Black Girls Code in San Francisco. As one of the few Black women engineers in her field, Bryant recognized something profound. Her daughter and countless girls like her had no accessible pathway into coding and technology. Did she have massive funding? No. Did she have the perfect business plan? Hardly. What she had was a kitchen table, borrowed spaces, and volunteer instructors. What she had was a vision that wouldn't let her sleep at night. Today, Black Girls Code has educated over 20,000 young women across multiple cities and even internationally in Johannesburg. Those girls aren't just learning to code, they're reimagining what's possible for their futures in fields where they rarely see themselves represented. That's what happens when you build without waiting for permission. Or consider Morgan DeBon, who at just 24 years old left corporate America to launch Blavity Inc. from her apartment. She saw how mainstream media consistently failed to reflect the voices and stories relevant to her community. She had no significant capital, no industry connections, and limited experience running a media business. What she did have? An urgent need she couldn't ignore and friends who shared her vision. Instead of expensive marketing campaigns, she leveraged social media savvy. Rather than chasing outside investors first, she reinvested early revenue back into growth. She built partnerships organically within the community she served. Today, Blavity reaches millions monthly and hosts Afrotech, the largest conference dedicated to Black tech professionals in the country. What began as a response to feeling invisible in mainstream spaces has become both a cultural hub and a launch pad For countless creatives and entrepreneurs, that's what happens when you trust your story has power. And then there's KJ Miller and Amanda E. Johnson, the two Harvard MBAs who founded Minted Cosmetics after experiencing firsthand how the beauty industry overlooked women with deeper skin tones. When they couldn't find nude lipsticks that actually matched their skin, they didn't wait for major beauty retailers to solve the problem. They mixed initial formulations in their home kitchens because traditional investors doubted demand existed beyond what they considered niche markets. They self funded prototypes, then crowd-funded initial production runs. They focus on storytelling around inclusion rather than chasing trends set by others. Less than 3 years after launch, Minted became one of very few Black owned brands stocked nationally at Target and Ulta Beauty. With multi million-dollar revenues, they've redefined what nude means across skin tones globally. That's what happens when courage becomes your catalyst. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. These are exceptional stories. These women had special advantages I don't have. But that's precisely the myth I want to dismantle today. So the truth is, they all started exactly where you are right now, with an unmet need they couldn't ignore, limited resources, and a vision that wouldn't let them rest. What made them exceptional wasn't their circumstances, it was their refusal to wait for perfect conditions before taking the first step. As Lanell Carter emphasized in our interview, you don't need permission or perfection to start building legacy. You just need to begin. This message feels especially crucial for those of us who have spent years in survival mode, particularly Black women who have been conditioned to carry everyone else's dreams while putting our own on hold. We've mastered the art of being strong for others, but sometimes struggle to channel that same strength into building what matters most to us. The soft girl era isn't just about rest and boundaries, though Lord knows we need those too. It's also about giving ourselves permission to create, to build, to leave something meaningful behind that reflects our unique vision and values. Your story and ideas have power. Every struggle you've overcome, every insight you've gained, every triumph you've celebrated, these aren't just personal milestones. They're building blocks for something larger than yourself. I'm reminded of something profound Lanell shared during our conversation. Legacy isn't about having everything figured out. It's about having vision, heart for your people, and the courage to move forward even when things are uncertain. That uncertainty, that's where the magic happens. That's where innovation thrives. That's where legacy begins. Consider how different our world would be if Kimberly Bryant had waited until she had perfect funding before launching Black Girls Code. How many of those 20,000 girls might never have discovered their passion for technology? Or if Morgan DeBon had waited until she had decades of media experience before creating Blavity, how many voices would remain unheard? How many stories untold? Or if KJ Miller and Amanda Johnson had waited for the beauty industry to recognize their needs instead of addressing them directly, how many women would still be searching for products that truly see them? The truth is, the most meaningful legacies often begin in response to the gaps we experience personally, the needs we see unmet, the voices we find silenced, the problems we encounter that no one else seems motivated to solve. Your frustrations aren't random, your struggles aren't meaningless. They're pointing you towards your purpose, if you're brave enough to follow where they lead. Now, I'm not suggesting you quit your job tomorrow and launch a startup without a plan. Legacy building isn't always about grand gestures or complete life overhauls. Sometimes it's about taking one small step today, then another tomorrow, consistently moving toward a vision that matters deeply to you. Maybe it's finally writing that children's book featuring characters who look like the children in your community. Perhaps it's creating that mentorship program you wish you'd had access to when you were younger. It could be developing that product that addresses a need you've noticed no one else is meeting. Whatever it is, it begins with giving yourself permission to start imperfectly, incompletely, but intentionally. As I reflect on my conversation with Lanell Carter, I'm struck by how often we underestimate the power of simply beginning. We wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect validation, not realizing that legacy is built one courageous step at a time. So here's my challenge to you today: choose one idea that matters deeply to you, even if it feels small right now, and take just one step toward making it real this week. Write down your vision, share it with someone supportive. Start mapping what resources or community might help you along the way. You don't have to wait until things are perfect. You only have to begin because the world is waiting for your unique contribution. Not someday, not when you feel ready, but now, with all your beautiful imperfections and unfinished edges. Look around this room. Every single person here carries a vision that could transform a life, a community, an industry. And yet, how many of those visions will remain unrealized because we're waiting for permission that will never come? The greatest tragedy isn't failing at something meaningful, it's never having the courage to begin. So I leave you with this: the next time you find yourself hesitating, waiting for that tap on the shoulder, remember Kimberly Bryant, Morgan DeBon, KJ Miller, and Amanda Johnson. Remember that they too stood where you stand now, full of doubt, short on resources, but burning with a vision they couldn't ignore. They chose to begin anyway, and in that beginning, they found their power. Your legacy is waiting for you to do the same. Begin